is Renegade Talk Radio. Renegade Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's a Labor Day in Las Vegas, Nevada. What does that mean? Oh, dear. This is Betsey-Bell at the Double B Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, here to let you know that we have a show for you today, even on Labor Day. That is why we labor, my audience, because we don't want you to miss out on anything, especially on this beautiful sunny Monday morning. This is called the Upside Down Rule, and the first part of the show is the funnel. After you get through that, the second part is called the Savvy Strategy. Ooh. And then our final part and most important part of the day, a labor of love. So how can you beat that when you're on a vacay and getting ready to start your own labor of love? You know what? The other day I brought you a murder case that was being tried in Las Vegas, and it is a signature of the disease that we are suffering from in large portions of our society. We are now in the aftermath of this nightmare, and as we are hearing more about this defendant, a lot is coming forth from the woodpile. I beg your forgiveness, but I have to make a point on the back of this defendant. We need more juries like the one in Las Vegas. Sadly, some of these criminals, like Tellis, will never see the inside of a courtroom, and that's not because they didn't commit a crime. You, my audience, and me, we are the guilty ones. We are the ones that caused this crime to happen. We opened our morning paper one day and read a story about this hump. Sorry, I am going to take you on a ride through a funnel. Don't get lost. I have guardrails to protect you, my innocents. As we all know, the trail can be bumpy. So strap in, here we go. Before they reached their verdict Wednesday, jurors reviewed the evidence and compared notes, Patterson said. This was a juror from the Tellis murder trial. She said they were swayed by a piece of evidence, Tellis's DNA under Gehrman's fingernails, and the similarity between Tellis's gait and that of the assailant. The murder was on a neighbor's security surveillance camera. Tellis was sentenced by the jury to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. In what experts saw as an unusual move, Tellis decided to take the stand at his trial, and he spoke to the jury in narrative form, meaning his attorneys did not ask him any questions. So, let me have you take this in. Now, I'm not shoving it down your throat, but I am nudging you to pay attention to what people aren't telling you vis-a-vis this Tellis weirdo. Former Clark County District Attorney David Rogers said, "The reason attorneys don't ask the defendant any questions when they testify on their own is because it is a way for attorneys to avoid ethical problems with perpetuating testimony they know to be false." That's for later. Therefore, if the attorney asks questions, he will be suborning perjury. Tellis has a set on him that is unmistakably made of bear poop, which he thinks looks like brass. I know. I'm being very harsh. Hear me out. What he told the jury was that he was framed for the murder. How can this happen? I'm asking you, my audience, to visualize this frame job, if you will. Here is how it would go down if Tellis was framed. You're the framer. You get his DNA and you plant it under Gehrman's fingernails as he lay dead. You tear up a straw hat and a vest that he wore and place it in his garage. Then you drive his car to the murder scene and park it in front of the house right at the same time that you are committing the murder to frame him. When Tellis was asked by a reporter later, how did your DNA get under Gehrman's fingernails? Tellis looked surprised. At first, I don't know. And then he said, I was framed. We all know how that can happen, right? How many times have these frame jobs come up in your life? My audience, for all the Tellises that are sitting behind bars thinking about how they were framed for the next 20 years, what about the ones that are still walking around among us, gaslighting us, or just making you believe they are telling the truth? Let's fast forward now to today. Kamala Harris was one of the biggest cheerleaders for the administration's economic policies, even going so far as to use the term Bidenomics as a positive description. Bidenomics is working, Harris said, in speeches around the country. And, of course, she provided the key tie-breaking vote for each of the defining pieces of legislation that built the Biden-Harris economy. By the way, in case you missed it, Kamala Harris is now running for president of the United States. She's gonna double down on those votes. Now, how can this happen? She is not only a cheerleader for Joe Biden's administration, she also was the main implementer of his policies. I want to know, my friends and my audience, was she framed? Did someone do this behind her back and pin it on her? In her interview with Dana Bash on Thursday, Harris also once again repeated the original sin of the Biden-Harris administration. The lie that the economy was in ruins when she took office in 2021. Biden began incanting this falsehood on the campaign trail in 2020, and it was aided by complicit and incompetent establishment media figures. For example, Chris Cuomo, my favorite MC. I know. He's okay, kind of. But he was a CNN anchor, and he falsely claimed that the U.S. economy was ailing more than Germany's. Who? Germany? Either because Cuomo did not understand the official government numbers, or because he didn't care to. He was under different orders then. This was also post-COVID shutdown. If we had the patience, we could probably spend the entirety of an edition of Breitbart Business Digest pointing out examples of television anchors, newspaper reports, and pundits spreading lies about the state of the economy in 2020. Unfortunately, media complicity, when it comes to this particular lie, is not merely part of the historical record. It is an ongoing scandal for the American press. In Thursday's interview, CNN's Dana Bash raised no objections to Harris's false characterization of the economy. Harris stated that her values haven't changed, and Bash never asked her, "What values?" There's more coming up.
This is Renegade Talk Radio. Renegade Talk Radio.
We're back, and this is our Labor Day, our labor of love for you, my audience, and what we are going to talk about in this part of our show. How can this happen with Betsey-Bell? And we are going through the savvy strategy. Now, the reason I'm calling this show the upside down rule is because these people, you know which ones I'm talking about, the little morons running everything at the top because we let them do it. We're going to stop them. We've had enough. The upside down rule is to turn you upside on your head so that the blood is running and rushing to your brain until you can't stand it anymore. So you stand up. That's the point. We're going to stand up. Congressional Democrats have one piece of advice for Kamala Harris, and that's keep your policy proposals to herself. Democrats want Harris to campaign on her vibes and only tell Americans what policies she will pursue after the election. Now that's what I call a great deal. We get to find out what she's going to do to us after we vote for her. Democratic lawmakers call it a savvy strategy. They'd rather lay out a specific plan post-November when a potential President-elect Harris would have to step up her administration and determine her governing priorities. Quote, Politico reports, really? We're going to determine her governing priorities after she's elected. Haven't we been here before? Why not try it again? It worked once. If you see a strategy work, you don't have to think up a new one. Just rinse and repeat. Keep them all turned on their heads. They won't mind. The American people seem to be immune to pain. I agree. I think fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think we have been there, done that. Now we need to not put the shame back on ourselves. Congressional Democrats get the thing. What did Joe tell you about his policies? He said he would end fracking and drilling, and he did, but he only said that in a speech where there were about 5 people attending. So I guess most of us didn't get the message. Democrats in swing districts don't want to have to defend the socialist agenda of defunding the police, giving free health care to illegal aliens, and banning private health insurance that Harris campaigned on in her disastrous 2020 run. She doesn't need to negotiate against herself. We've got the biggest possible tent right now. That was said by Congressman Ann McLean Custer from the Democratic state of New Hampshire. She was being interviewed by Politico. I don't think there's a real strong reason for her to try to weed out any points of view right now. Oh my God, you guys, this is just insane. The Democrat scheme to present Harris' candidacy as a mystery box that will only reveal itself on election day is similar to the one Nancy Pelosi deployed in ramming Obamacare through Congress. Back then, Nancy Pelosi infamously declared, "We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it." Pelosi knew the socialist Obamacare scheme would prove to be massively unpopular. They knew that, but they passed it anyway. There you have it. It is massively unpopular. They know that what they are inflicting on you, we don't like. So, my audience, why would we do it again? Let me solve this with a simple implied technology. We call it who is benefiting. When we don't drill for our own oil, do you, my Americans, benefit? We have to have oil, and we have more underfoot than any other country in the world. Who benefits if we don't drill? The climate. That being said, we're going to drag you through a point number 2. Take a powder on the planet. It's still going to be here long after many billions of years. You couldn't affect it, so let's not dilly-dally here. Defund the police. Who benefits? Your cousin Vinny, who just screwed his uncle out of a few $100,000? The illegal alien down the street who beat a police officer and now he's out of jail? Prices for groceries are now going to be controlled by the government. But that isn't all they're going to control. Who benefits? The reason that Kamala can't tell you what she wants for America is because she won't do anything that benefits you. You're just a pesky little irritant that she's trying to put behind her. She can't tell you that you will no longer have any freedoms. You will no longer have free speech. You will no longer own a home. You will no longer afford your own groceries. She just told you that in an interview. She just told you, but you didn't hear her. She broke all of this, and now she wants you to hire her to fix it. My friends, stick to your gardening and stick to your project in the garage. Leave the fixing to people who know how to fix it. One thing Kamala is not lying about is you don't want to go back. We want to go forward. We don't want to leave with the one who brought us to this dance. Right. Chuck her and all her enablers. If what she has to offer is so great, then how come she's not telling you about it? The silence is deafening. They know you won't like it. It only benefits them. Our country is being stolen from us, the people. The forefathers predicted this swing toward huge, overpowering government and huge, overreaching to silence us. I know they were really smart. They couldn't have seen it all this clearly. Even our press is a creation of total propaganda. One thing Kamala said that you need to believe, she said her values haven't changed. So why should yours? Next up, we're one. It's a collective that the government had no idea was out there in the hitherlands. Wait for it. It's really good.
This is Renegade Talk Radio. Renegade Talk Radio.
We're back, and this is the best part of our show today, called The Labor of Love. You know, my audience, this is Betsey-bell, and how can this happen? And I just want you to know that I love what I do, and it's because I can connect with you each day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So on those days that I do produce my podcast, I enjoy them. I appreciate the fact that you guys are out there listening, because I think that my labor is a labor of love. I want you to know that I have a great connection with you, and so it helps me to be better informed, because when I'm informed, I can inform you. So I'm going off script for this part of our show. Former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok reached a $1.2 million settlement with the Justice Department over claims that the department violated his privacy and the Privacy Act when it released text messages during the Trump administration between he and his former FBI employee, Lisa Page, that criticized former President Donald Trump and his candidacy. Now, I don't think the criticism was the problem, but let's not go there. One of Strzok's lawyers, Aiton D. Goldman of Zuckerman Spader, said in a statement that it was a critical step forward in addressing the government's unfair and highly politicized treatment of Pete, meaning Peter Strzok, and said that the settlement also vindicates the privacy interest of all government employees. Now, we know government employees are not under the same scrutiny as in the private sector, right? I wonder, but then why do we bother to ask at this point? The whole world is in the hands of something or someone, just not us, I fear. I wonder if you wrote text messages on your phone, this is a private sector job, work-issued phone, to your fellow colleague on her work-issued phone, saying that the president would never get elected because you have an insurance policy in place to assure that that doesn't happen. Are your rights violated when those text messages become evidence? Or do your rights to privacy kick in right there and no one should ever see these messages on your work-issued phone? Now, you work for the FBI, so do you work for this said elected president? How can this happen? I should never ask for information that isn't any of my business. I wonder if when you work for the FBI, if it's okay to carry on an affair with said colleague and along with texts that is under the Privacy Act as well. I guess I need to brush up on the law. Why do that when we have lawyers like Aiton Goldman, attorneys, love defendants? They never met a guilty one. I guess that could be expensive if they did. One more thing. Former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok is suing the FBI and the Justice Department, claiming his firing in 2018 violated his rights to due process and free speech and was only carried out because of political pressure. And may I add this to that? Who was being politically pressured? Oh, no need to trouble your little mind with that. Strzok was only carrying out the mandates of his privacy for free speech. He only had an affair because of the fact that FBI put Page there, and he was exercising his right to dip his pen in the company inkwell. Isn't that the same as free speech? Free dipping? Someone would have had to do it. If he hadn't, he was just stepping up to take one for the team. You know, my audience, I'm gonna file my own lawsuit for free speech. My podcast is shadow banned every day. I think I'm gonna call Aitman Ghoul. I'm going to call Aitman. Do you think he would take my case? Oh, no. You can't be serious. I have one more thing. Strzok, who filed the suit in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, is trying to get his job with the FBI back. For that claim, he is seeking back pay and other payment for his employment. Now, okay, moving on, betsey-bell. Strzok testified before Congress in 2018 that he was deeply regretful of sending the anti-Trump texts to Page, but said he had done so with the expectation of privacy. So that way Aitman had something on the record, right? I had no idea this was going to happen, Strzok said at the time. Here's my expectation of privacy. I will put out my podcast on any platform, and my expectation is that anyone who finds it can listen to it. But then, what if nobody can find it? Is that prohibiting my free speech? Today, you guys, being Labor Day, I appreciate all who work for their bounty. I appreciate all that we do every day to make the world a better place through your pursuits of your individual livelihoods. If you are making a contribution to all of us through your pursuit of happiness, then you are a fellow patriot and a fellow American. This is your day to celebrate. We will only benefit others if our pursuit is a labor of love. Everyone wants the benefits of loving what they do. God made you to love others, so why not start by doing what you love? And maybe that will be something that the rest of us love too, if we're allowed to consume it. One more thing about Kamala. Sorry about that, you guys. I have to add this. Senator John Kennedy, who is one of my favorites from Louisiana, he has a description of Kamala, and this is what he said. She's just like AOC, but without the bartending experience. And now I'm going to say without the buzz. You know, the thing that happens when you drink. Otherwise, why the hell would you? I will return, my friends. In the meantime, stand up. Don't let that blood rush to your brain.